morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the African Wahala. It's a nice evening today. I'm here with my man, my brother, the Black Scholar. Black Scholar, how you doing?
What's going on, fam?
Thank you for joining us, man. We're here to discuss the aftermath of the Nigerian elections 2023. We know it's been spoken about 1,000 times, but there is still a lot that can be spoken of the elections. So, what do you think, Black Scholar, from the American perspective? How can you give us a summary how you perceived the elections?
Um, as African elections go, uh, I want to say it was I know it was chaotic, but I think it was one of the least chaotic. I mean, it wasn't like Kenya's election last year or some of the other elections in the recent past where there was violent clashes amongst the different supporters. I mean, there was some, but for the most part, people have accepted the results. They may have complained about the INEC and how they handled it or whatever, and I know there are different charges of both voter fraud and election rigging and all that stuff, but I think it was a fairly decent election. I mean, I expected the, the ruling party to win because they're the incumbent, so it's hard to beat the incumbent. Uh, the APC, the All People's Congress, All Progressives Congress, excuse me, they are a northern party, and the majority of Nigerians, like it or not, live in the north or the middle belt and the north. So, and then Tinubu was brilliant when he had a Muslim ticket. So that split, um, the Yoruba vote because a lot of Yorubas are Muslim as well, or a good chunk of them. And then the fact that he was a Yoruba, that helped him too. So that just solidified it. So it basically made the Igbos and some of the other Christian minorities on the outside. You know.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. In general, from an American perspective, when you see this kind of headline, you spoke about Kenya just now, but when you see this kind of headline with regards to the Nigerian elections, what do you think?
Um, it's sad, it's tragic, and I don't want to make light of it. However, I mean, this is nothing new. Okay, I'm not the typical American, or well, I don't want to say typical American, but the stereotypical American. I should say that's presented to
Yeah.
the world as being uninformed and unconcerned about what's going on outside the world. Okay, I've been to the continent. I've done
Yeah.
research for decades, studied, learned, met people, dated, all these things. So I know what's going on in Africa. I have a good sense of what's going on. And the violence didn't just start that election. It's been going for for decades now. You know, so
Yeah.
to just look at the last 3 months and say, well, 109 people got killed. You know, election-related violence. I had to read the article first off to see if it's not propaganda and find out their sources. And then two, um, there's some Nigerians are dying for so many other reasons as well. I mean, you have the Fulani
Okay.
herdsmen, you have the bandits, you got the terrorism, you got crime, you got the government repression. There's a lot of people, and then just the poverty. It's probably the biggest killer. So um, I don't want to discount that, but I don't. I think it's unfair to compare elections in developing countries to the elections in so-called developed countries. And as you can see, we have election violence in this country as well. January 6th, um,
Mm-hmm.
when Bush v. Gore had people were storming in Florida, uh, Miami-Dade County courthouse trying to
White
intimidate
House.
people. So it goes on, man. It goes on. And a lot of stuff gets unreported. So to give people a false impression. But what I would like to do tonight, before we get deep into the election, which we will, because we talked about it. We had a couple shows previously on
Yes.
that, building up to it. Just kind of do a cursory. So let me share my screen with you,
Yes.
and
So we have Black Scholar in the building. Um, he's very well versed about many African political situations, and he has physically visited multiple countries. How many countries have you visited, bro?
um, I've been I've been to Africa once, so and
Okay, okay,
I've
okay.
been
One.
to the Caribbean a number of times. I've been to Mexico. I've been to Europe. Uh,
And you've been to
I've been
Africa
to Central
once.
America. So I've been to a couple dozen countries outside the United States.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm well traveled. I speak several languages.
Hmm.
I have multiple degrees, so I know a little something.
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me what you see. Do you see all these different videos?
Yes, I see the videos.
Okay. So it's just interesting. This is just kind of like African news. That's a little French. It's owned by a French channel, but they cover what goes on in Africa. They get a little blurbs. So you can see some of the headlines. South African activists demonstrate against Uganda's anti-gay bill.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Um, uh, Nike opens an art gallery in Abuja. The EU are monitoring peace in let's say Ethiopia. So there's a lot of different things going on after it.
Yeah.
Going on in Tunisia. Um, let's see, the DRC currency drops. The with the
Yeah.
war.
And there
Gabon,
was the South Africa, Russia,
right,
BRICS
yeah,
alliance.
right. BRICS deal, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and then I think Jamaica's supposed to have attended the conference too, and several other countries attended. Saudi Arabia. They're trying to form a new sphere of influence. You know,
Yeah.
outside of the Western hegemony, the United States and the Western Europe hegemony. You know, and then you
Yeah.
notice that the Saudis and OPEC plus raise the price of oil. They cut back their output over I think 2 million barrels a day. They're gonna cut it back to about 2 million barrels a day. But I say that to say this. So, for example, the South Africa thing. We talked about how Uganda had passed a bill, and you know how the United States and everybody's trying to push that on Africa as that's their issue.
Yeah.
There's a lot of homophobia here. You have a lot of people trying to ban transgender uh, 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 procedures in in people under 21. Uh, they're they got laws talking about don't say gay and talk about that as far as they're trying to ban drag queens. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of
Hmm.
stuff unresolved here. So
Yeah.
there's no reason for Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Democrats or American left or liberal politicians to be pushing that on Africa
Yeah.
because they have their own
Exactly.
problems here. Okay,
Too
so
many.
you know, now you might like this. Let me share this screen. Can you see this guy, black man in a suit?
Yeah. EU. Yeah. Yeah. Which one of them? There are three people in.
Okay, let me stop sharing and share again. Let's see.
Greetings, first time. Greetings spiritually from Chicago, USA. Give thanks to the Most High, Creator of all creation, the Judge, the Juror, and the only one worthy of worshiping, praising, thanking, remembering, learning, etc. etc. Thank you so much, first time.
Okay, can you see this now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is uh, the Manhattan District Attorney. He's the chief prosecutor in New York County,
Yeah.
and he led an indictment against the former President Trump.
Yes.
Now, I thought you might think this is interesting because you feel like you say the Western countries hold their politicians accountable,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so here this has never happened before. This is unprecedented. A former president has been indicted and
Yes.
face prison time. So let me listen to what he had. Listen to what he had to say, and then I'm gonna get your feedback on it. Okay.
Okay, okay. There is no audio. No audio.
No audio.
Yeah,
Let me stop.
yeah.
I thought
You
I
might
could
want.
share that.
Yeah, you might have to reshare it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me try it again. Technology.
Yes. Yeah, but I mean, it's quite interesting, thinking about the American politics. Did you hear the comparison between Donald Trump and an African dictator? I think that was made by the guy, the comedian from South Africa. Can't remember his name now,
Oh,
but
Trevor Noah.
yes, Trevor Noah. Yes,
What did he
yes.
say?
He compared Donald Trump with African politicians.
No, I don't think so. But I can see how people see that, say that, but I don't see the similarities. I mean, there's a cult of personality, but that's true everywhere. I mean, people act like I think we, in our zeal to want them to correct what they said, we try to make it seem like it's something unique to Africa.
Yeah.
These things occur in the West and other parts of the planet currently and prior to, because they just have become more sophisticated and they have more control over their own internal affairs. So that's the only difference. You know,
Yeah.
they were tribal until they figured out it would be better to unite. So I get tired of hearing about it. It's just an African problem. So let me let you hear this guy speak briefly. You hear it?
On a New York Supreme Court indictment returned by a Manhattan grand jury on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. Under New York state law, it is a felony to falsify business records with intent to defraud and an intent to conceal another crime. That is exactly what this case is about. 34 false statements made to cover up other crimes. These are felony crimes in New York State, no matter who you are. We cannot and will not normalize serious criminal conduct.
Okay, so let me stop sharing that. So you see what he said, though.
Yeah.
We cannot normalize serious criminal conduct. Now, I know you would argue in Nigeria it's normalized.
Yeah.
Theft goes on repeatedly, blatantly. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
Man, that's a great question, bro. So, there is no perfect society in the entire world because human beings just don't have the capacity to be 100% perfect, efficient. So for that reason, there would always be problems. In the Nigerian context, the difference is people in power get to commit crimes. They get to loot public funds with impunity, no problem. They are not going to prison. They are not worried about jail. It's nothing. There is no issues. After looting and becoming billionaires and having that power for so long and passing it around their friends, close associates, it's a loss for the rest of us. And there is almost nothing you can do. And the most unfortunate part is they are fully in control of the military and the security forces. So you can't even have anyone to back you. Look, in the US, you have Donald Trump. Okay, yeah, and forged documents. That's what they claimed in the video. Forged documents.
He lied on the documents. He said he gave he was giving money to paying his lawyers legal fees, but he was covering up that he was paying off his mistress. and didn't want her to write a book, so it was embarrassing when he was running for president.
Okay, well, is it possible that he's being witch hunted?
Oh yeah, this is definitely political motivated, politically motivated. The guy prosecuting is a Democrat, and Trump is a Republican. So yeah, it's politically motivated. Most definitely.
Okay, do you think
But
he's
he still could
going?
be guilty of what he's been charged with too.
And if he's found guilty, he would be sentenced to jail, to prison.
Yes, I mean if he doesn't get a lenient sentence or get a great plea deal, they say I saw an article say he's facing 34 counts and maybe upwards of 136 years in prison. But I don't believe that. I don't see that happen. I was
Okay,
surprised he got indicted. That's never happened before, but we'll see.
I
But it's
mean,
gonna be bad because see, the Republicans are good for payback. You know.
what I think is the American judiciary system is not perfect. After all, we see the lopsidedness in justice that is served to many African Americans over the
Right,
years. You
right,
see people, they commit the same crimes with Caucasian Americans, and the Caucasian Americans get 10% of the jail sentence. So yeah, it's American judiciary system is not perfect. It's far from perfect. But compared to the Nigerian judiciary system, let me tell you how bad it is in Nigeria. In Nigeria, they use the state security services, police, military, DSS, Department of State Services, to physically attack, kill people, kidnap people, take them, lock them up in underground prisons somewhere far away. No, these are normal things. It's always been this way. It kind of got better after when Obasanjo got in as the first Democratic president, and stroke Goodluck Jonathan, all that military hard-handedness, it was a little bit reduced until Buhari came in. Then once Buhari came in, it became horrible. Right now, they do it blatantly. It's so bad that there are cases of the DSS, the soldiers, the police killing and attacking people on camera. The cases are taken to court. People have already lost their lives. The the courts award the victims some money, and the government and the DSS throw out the court orders, and nothing happens. Or there's so many ridiculous things. These guys don't care about obeying any judicial process. So what is going on in America right now with Donald Trump is unprecedented. But I have to give them some kudos. That's what I'll
okay,
say.
okay. So let me. I talked about how. Let me share this screen with you. How the United States, had a vested interest in this election. Okay. Now, uh, okay. So you see this lady here? Wahala, do you see her? Wahala.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Sorry about that.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Why
So let me,
was Stacey Abrams
yeah, Stacey.
overseeing the Nigerian presidential elections?
Okay. Right. So do you know who Stacey Abrams is?
No, I don't.
Okay. She ran for governor of Georgia twice. She ran in 2018 and then she ran last year. And she would have
Okay.
been, had she been elected, she would have been the first black woman to become a governor in the United States.
Oh,
We currently have a black man as a governor of Maryland, and we've only had four black governors in the history of this country since the end of the Civil War. The first one was
oh,
PBS,
wow.
yeah, PBS Pinchback, and he was just governor for maybe a month. He was not elected. He just happened to be part of the legislature at the time of Mississippi, or I think it was Mississippi or Louisiana. I think it was Mississippi. No, it was Louisiana. PBS Pinchback. He was the governor for first black, it was like late 1800s, and shortly after the Civil War, and then it was 100 years later, about 1989, that Douglas Wilder was elected governor of Virginia, and then probably about 20 years after him, Deval Patrick was governor of Massachusetts. And so now this guy, can't call his name right now, but he's the governor. I think his name is Wesley or West, but he's the governor of Maryland. So we've only had 4 elected black governors. I think we've had maybe 6 elected U.S. senators. So,
quick, I have a question.
Yeah.
During Hurricane Katrina, the governor of New Orleans, was it a black man?
No, that's the mayor. The mayor of New Orleans was black, yes.
Okay.
The governor of Louisiana was a white woman at the time. Her name was Kathleen Blanco.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, we have a lot of black mayors. I mean, you know, we can get elected locally.
Yeah.
But to get elected statewide requires you to get millions of white voters.
Yeah.
Okay. And most of the time they're not gonna vote for somebody else.
Mm.
Like that's why it was such a miracle that Barack Obama even got in there.
Mm.
Okay. We really don't know. Bush was so bad as a president that people was like anybody but Bush. So white people was like, we'll try a black guy this time because it was different. But then he turned out to be just like the white guy, another lying politician. But that's another topic for a different day. The reason I'm showing you Stacey is because she's there to monitor. She was sent there by the National Democratic Institute and the International Republican Institute, the IR, to monitor as one of the election monitors. It's like, you know, international observers. What she says now, she complains the election was stolen from her in Georgia by the white Republicans in 2018 and then also in 2022. But what she says here is going to shock you. She said there's voter suppression in America, but then she says there's no voter suppression in Nigeria. Listen up.
What?
Right, listen.
We've seen that before in the past with other streamers. I'm not that guy. It's Abuja as co-leader of the joint.
Speaking with have said they believe there will be high with this. Let me ask you first, what are you seeing thus far at the different polling stations you have visited here in Abuja?
I would say that despite a slow start with the BVAS, we have seen orderly lines, we have seen long lines signaling strong enthusiasm, but we've also seen a great deal of cooperation and a very peaceful conversation among voters. They want to be heard and they are willing to stand in line and have patience because they know that's their path to progress.
It's interesting you say that because one of the things that I have observed the past few days, this huge contingent of youth voters that many believe will really play a significant role in this election. And the people that we've been speaking with have said they believe there will be high turnout today. You, of course, are well known in the United States for your activism, for being a political figure, an author, somebody who has done so much to try to expand voting rights. From the conversations that you have had, especially with youthful voters here in Nigeria, what is the takeaway?
Well, I've had a chance to speak with Yaga and with a number of youth voters across the state. And what they've said almost uniformly is they want to be heard. They believe progress is possible. They believe that more is possible. They understand that they are the most assailed by unemployment, that the challenges they face are real, but that so is the opportunity for change. What we've tried to have a conversation about, though, is the caution that not every election turns out the way you want, but that the responsibility is to show up and try to shape the future as much as you can.
So now I want to take a quick second.
So I'm going to stop sharing that. Okay. So what do you think about that? Wow. What she said? I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry, Stacey Abrams. I feel like she's just, an average government employee of the US to implement their agenda or to conduct spying missions, right. Reconnaissance, or to implement their agenda. It's either one of both.
Okay. And that's what the guy in the video who had the clip of her interview by Al Jazeera was saying. He said she was there just to spy on Nigeria. But I think it's bigger than that. I think, when Tinubu went to the Chatham House, you talked about that.
Yes, at Chatham House.
He was getting, something. You okay? He was saying, I think something the minister said. He said that before you can get elected, you must be selected by the powers that be. You have to be selected by the rich and powerful before you even get to see the people. He was talking about Obama at the time, but that's true for a lot of these politicians. They had to be vetted. So that's what Tinubu was doing. He was going to the UK to get their blessing, to get vetted, and see if he's there. He's gonna be that man in Nigeria, our man in Abuja, and so he won.
But I'm not sure if you've followed the post-election drama and everything going on. It's been very rough for Tinubu, actually, in my opinion. The guy has been away. Nobody really knows where he is. Is either in the UK or in France, one of those two countries. Oh yeah, immediately he's been out of the country for a while, and people are already speculating that his tenure after he gets sworn in, it's going to be like Buhari's tenure, exactly identical. When Buhari was there in the first 2 years, after a while he stopped taking interviews, he stopped addressing Nigerians on TV. The guy just disappeared. He went somewhere in the UK in a hospital for months, and the excuse that he gave Nigerians was, "Oh, they tried to poison me in Aso Villa." Just very ridiculous. This, and like I said, it's normalized, so people don't even try to hold him accountable. How can you be the president and you're away from your country for months in a foreign hospital? I mean, if that's not the biggest shame ever, I don't know what else is. You're supposed to have world-class hospitals in your country that you can use, that your fellow citizens can use. And right now, they're about to pass the baton to, Tinubu. Before he's sworn in, he's already disappearing for weeks at a time in Europe, in France, England. Nobody knows where he is. So obviously, after the guy gets sworn in, it will be the same thing as Buhari, spending 7 months at a time outside the office, refusing to hand over power to the vice president as per the constitution. That's what happened in Buhari's time. A lot of drama has been going on in the Nigerian political space, bro. I mean, if you're talking about impunity at the highest level, where the government officials they just act like the citizens are animals, like the citizens don't exist. That's how we are treated, bro.
All right.
Like these guys have no respect for us whatsoever. But I mean, this last elections, people tried as much as they could, but we'll see.
Okay, let's get into the Nigerian presidential election and then some of the other elections. So we know this was election season in Nigeria. The first round of elections was the presidential election on February 25th, which Bola Ahmed Tinubu was the victor, right?
Yes.
And then last month they had 2 rounds. They had the House of the Assembly, which is your Congress, the Nigerian Congress.
Yes.
You had the House of Representatives and then the Senate. They had their elections. And then last weekend or 2 weekends ago, they had the state governors races, right?
Yes.
And apparently I think Labor got this and made some inroads as far as, Peter Obi's Labor Party made some inroads as far as getting electing a governor somewhere. He won Lagos State. But let me share this screen with you.
That's Labour Party won Lagos State. Yeah.
How many seats did they win in the Congress, in the National Assembly?
Oh, in the National Assembly. I'm not sure.
How many governors races did they win?
They won quite a few. I think they won 6 governor states. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
So
it's good for a start. Yeah.
So let me share the screen. I'm just going to show you this. You see this thumbnail sketch?
Yes.
Of from Arise News. They say Atiku leads protest, right? And then Can you see this now? Can you,
Yeah.
you see the one about Peter Obi?
PDP protest. Exclusive Wiki reacts to articles protest against presidential ruling results.
No,
No,
let
I
me
don't see the OB. I just see article one.
let me share his because I gotta share. I had to share it by tab. I can't share the whole screen or share the
Oh,
audio
I
for
see.
some reason. I don't know why it does that, but that's what it won't let me do. So let me do this then. Let me stop sharing and share again, and then okay. So Obi. So do you see that?
Yes.
He was the youth vote favorite, right?
Yes.
So both he and Atiku, number 2 and number 3, because Tinubu won about 8.6 million. I think
Yes.
Atiku won about
Article.
8.3 million votes, and then Peter Obi got 6 million votes, and I think Kwanso got a million plus.
Yeah, one point something.
Right. So they're protesting, and it's gone to the Supreme Court, and I like I told you, Obi, he has some great ideas, and he's also obviously the most educated. And he had the youth vote. But did the youth show up? Did the youth show up?
I think they did. I think they showed up in large numbers and
Okay.
voted for him.
Okay. So the youth in Lagos and maybe in the South and the Southeast.
And in Abuja, in Nasarawa. I'm gonna.
But
Yeah.
but as I said, the majority of the population is in the north or the middle belt states. So how many of them voted for OB?
In the Middle Belt region, at least we know of Plateau, and they were robbed. Nasarawa. So Nasarawa and Plateau, those are two, and Benue
Anyway,
Nasarawa, Plateau, and Benue. Yeah,
they were robbed. What do
I
you mean
can
they were robbed?
share my
Were they
screen,
supposed to win?
show you a map.
Huh?
I can show you a map.
Yeah, so here, I'll stop sharing and you show me.
Yeah, so Obi won all of this. Okay, no, I wouldn't say that. But in terms of population distribution, the populated centers are here. That's Lagos, Kano, and yeah, that's it. Lagos, Kano, maybe Abuja. Now Obi won Abuja, Obi won Lagos. At Kwakwanso won Kano. Then the other regions of the country, a place like Nasarawa. This is Nasarawa here. This is Plateau. This is Benue. Geographically, these are middle belt, central Nigeria. But for the longest time, they've always referred to all this region as northeast. Yeah. Obi made a dent in the central, in Nasarawa Plateau. Even Kaduna, APC lost Kaduna. Kaduna is predominantly APC, but they actually lost. It was split between PDP and Labour Party in Kaduna State. So yeah.
Okay. So let me share something that I wanted to show you, and then we'll get right into it. We'll chop it up in debate. Let me share this with you, okay? This will be the last thing I share, okay? For a while, anyway.
Okay.
you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
The fact that you are doing 70% in Anambra State does not mean somebody doing 10% in Kano is not better than you. The number of votes in Anambra is the size of one local government in Kaduna State. So all states are not equal. If you poll states,
Let me try to restart this video. I don't know why it won't. Let me replay it. But it's El Rufai. You know who El Rufai is, right?
Yeah, we call him Hellfire Rufai.
Okay.
A wicked man, bro.
you make them equal. Yes, Peter Obi
Okay.
will
Let me go back to that. Give me a second. It won't let me do it. El Rufai. Obi.
How can Peter Obi win any election? Peter Obi is polling 1% in Sokoto, 2% in Katsina, 5% in Kano. That's why the votes are. All states are not equal. The fact that you are doing 70% in Anambra State does not mean somebody doing 10% in Kano is not better than you. The number of votes in Anambra is the size of one local government in Kaduna State. So all states are not equal. If you poll states and you make them equal, yes, Peter Obi will sweep the southeastern states. He will do well in South-South. Where else? He's not polling well in Southwest, other than a drop in the ocean in Lagos. He's polling in the Christian enclaves in the north. He's polling well. But how many are they? Peter Obi cannot win the election. He doesn't have the number of states. He doesn't have 25% in more than, the last time we checked, in more than 16 states. He can't go anywhere. Peter Obi is a Nollywood actor, and that's all he will be. How can Peter Obi win any election? Peter Obi is polling 1% in Sokoto, 2%.
Okay.
You know,
So
this
that's
guy is ridiculous.
what do you think what he had to say?
They called him a Nollywood actor.
What do you think he had to say?
To be honest, that guy knows how to speak. That's El Rufai. Breaking down the numbers, and it's true. It's true. If you think about it, the population of Kano cannot be compared to the population of, let's say, Abia State, for example. So if you have 70% in Abia State, it might just be equivalent to 9% in Kano. So obviously that statement makes sense. The only problem is for someone like me that I'm extremely angry and upset with these Nigerian politicians. I can't even take them seriously. I can't even look at a guy like El Rufai say something and I would take it seriously. I can't. I mean, if the guy makes a threat, I will take a threat seriously because that's the kind of person that he is. These are people that only understand violence. I mean, some of these guys are very educated, schooled in some of the best schools around the world. But the problem is once they get back into that Nigerian circle of power, it intoxicates them and they have to be brutal. That's the only way they are able to hold on to power for long, So yeah, El Rufai, to me, it made sense with the mathematics, the statistics, the data that he gave, that he presented. That makes some sense. But the guy is evil. El Rufai is an evil guy. So I don't trust him. I don't trust him. We heard that in southern Kaduna, people voted Labour Party. And Kaduna didn't win the elections, the gubernatorial elections. I mean, APC did not win in Kaduna State, the gubernatorial elections. So, El Rufai was supposed to be the godfather of Kaduna State, and he lost the elections. I think that speaks volume.
So he's a governor or he's not? What's his position?
He's a governor. He's a governor, the governor of Kaduna State.
Kaduna State. And how many people live in Kaduna?
Oh, so let me tell you. Let me share my screen one more time. Kaduna State. Sorry. So yeah, you see, this is FCT, right, in the center, Abuja.
Yeah.
And then on top here, this is Kaduna. In the north, the entire northern region of Nigeria, the two most developed regions are Kaduna and Kano. So Kaduna and Kano. These were the first industrialized commercialized regions in Nigeria. Back then when the British came, they had already established like rail lines that passed through Kaduna, Kano. I think it might have ended in Kano. And then there was another line on the eastern side. All of these are defunct anyways, but there is another major city somewhere in Borno State, Maiduguri. Maiduguri is also one of the developed parts, but it's also the epicenter of Boko Haram for the last 14, 15 years. So there is a lot of destruction that has happened in Borno, Maiduguri. So yeah, population-wise, Kaduna is one of the major populated areas in the northern part of Nigeria. I can find the exact numbers and share it now.
Okay. So now that we've kind of established what's going on, what is the status with the court decision? What they, I said OB and Atiku protesting it. What's going on with that?
So right now with the basically OB came up with about 5 or 6 different items in his petition, and these were very, very serious. I'll just summarize it quickly. One off was, okay, you guys have already, by the virtue of the INEX constitution and the Nigerian constitution, you guys have already broken the law by allowing a guy with unverifiable details to compete for this position. That was one of the petitions. Then he also in the other petition, it spoke about the process that INEC used. I guess with the beavers, with the machines, the electronic transmission that was supposed to take place that ended up not happening. That was one of his petitions against Tinubu and APC. There was some serious. Let me actually just find it and I'll post it on the screen and read
it. Let me ask you this. One of the things I heard early on during the presidential election in particular, what can you explain what? Okay, we know INEC is the Independent Nigerian Election Commission, right? Independent National Election Commission.
Yes.
What is BVAS? What does that stand for?
So BVAS is a machine that was used in the elections to collate the votes, I believe, to document each vote from the voting process to the transmission process. But I think it wasn't used. It ended up wasn't used as it was supposed to. And then they had spent a lot of money on that process. Check this out. The elections cost Nigeria 300 billion naira, which is the equivalent of, I don't know, maybe $500 million. That's a lot of money, and they spent that amount of money only to generate obvious rigging and cheating. And people are mad. People are extremely upset. We're still in the process, still watching what happens in the court with Obi's court case. Okay.
Now, there was another thing people said. They would show their PVC. What does that stand for?
PVC.
Is that the personal voting card, or what is that?
I'm actually just going to check that out.
Because people were saying they weren't allowed to show them. They would show it, and then they wouldn't get to vote. I guess it's like a voter registration card here, but a lot of states have made that basically obsolete. You took to have one, but now you have to show your driver's license or some other government ID, picture ID.
Yes, that's what it was. PVC.
Personal voter
permanent voter's card.
Okay. So is that like your registration card to show that you registered to vote?
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
Now you were saying people weren't allowed. They had to wait a long time. They had to turn away. That was like the BVAS was supposed to collate count all the votes, and And I remember when the INEC chairman was talking, he was saying that once all the votes are tallied, then they can determine if there was any irregularities. They couldn't do it as they were doing it. So what's wrong with that statement?
Him saying, can you repeat that, please?
The INEC chair,
Yeah.
he was saying people need to be patient. We cannot check for voter irregularities while we're counting the votes. We can only do after the vote has been counted. What's wrong with that statement? Is it true or false?
Him saying they can't accept voters' irregularities
No, they
while
can't.
counting the vote.
They cannot detect voter irregularities or check for them until all the votes have been counted. To try to do
That sounds wrong to me.
To try to do it, the vote was wrong. Say what?
It sounds wrong. I think they're supposed to detect voters any irregularity while counting the votes and not until the end. Because that's the most efficient way to minimize any mistakes while counting the votes. But unfortunately, they worked hand in hand. I'm making all these allegations because I'm quite confident in the way things have always played out in Nigeria. It's not difficult to predict. I wasn't shocked that none of this happened, like there was massive rigging. Oh, these guys were like blatantly in broad daylight stealing people's votes, using thugs to attack people. Even after the elections, they are attacking people's shops because they've been profiled as a certain group that isn't allowed. Just stupidity. These are things that have been going on for decades. It's easily predictable.
Okay.
Okay,
but this is my pushback on that. Now, I'm not saying that there wasn't any voter fraud or election fraud going on, but they all three major candidates and Pedro Kwanso too were all doing it. They're all paying off people to vote. Not only paying out what we call walk around money in the states, where you just get people to knock on people's doors. Hey, you need to go vote. They're actually telling people how you go. Here's 20 naira, or 200 naira, and go vote. Okay.
Yeah.
1,000 naira and go vote for whoever. So Tinubu had his people doing it. Atiku had his people doing it. Obi had his people doing it. Kwanso had his people doing it. And whoever the other 18, 14 plus people who were running for president at the time were doing it. So if everybody's doing it, isn't that fair? Didn't that balance it out?
No. I wouldn't say it balances it out because wrong is wrong. But because we already have that culture of abnormalities, see. Let me tell you how horrible this thing was. In the primaries is the first elections they conduct within the political party. So the winner, the person that emerges victorious out of the primaries, represents the party in the main elections, either governorship or presidential. When Tinubu and Atiku were competing in the primaries, it was a cash galore. As a matter of fact, some of the bribery that was going on was reported on national TV, and nobody said anything about it. It's normal. It was like, imagine Donald Trump and Joe Biden contesting in the primaries of the Democratic Party and the other one. But you know what's going on?
The Republican Party.
And the Republican. In order for Trump to be elected as the flag bearer of the Republicans, he has to bribe, they call them delegates. He has to bribe delegates from different regions of the country in the same party. He has to pay them. Some were paid as much as $15,000. Tinubu was paying guys $30,000. These guys were spending dollars in America, in Nigeria.
Okay, but
Thousands of dollars.
What makes you think that's not going on now? What makes you think it didn't happen in the Democratic and Republican Party? Primary is not. They may not pay direct cash like I told you, but they pay in favors. Down the road, promises that if you do this, you support me, your state will get this amount of tax dollars sent back to it. Your brother who has a business will get a contract with my government. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. What's the difference?
I mean, like I said earlier, there is no perfect society, right? The difference is the corruption that happens in the American government is not conducted with impunity. You can't afford to misbehave as a politician in a country like America. Otherwise, America will be a third world country too. And that's just truth. The fact that they have a system that is able to ask questions, even if the politicians don't end up going to jail, but they can be asked questions. Like now, we can see Donald Trump being investigated.
I think you believe in the American dream a little too much, my friend. But as for many of us, it's a nightmare. But I'll grant you that point. You know, America has moved away from the open, blatant robbery and corruption for the
Yeah.
most part. Okay, except maybe Chicago or some of the other places in the Northeast and Midwest. But anyway, let's continue.
Yeah.
So that's where we stand right now. They're waiting. When is you told me? Did you tell me the inauguration will happen in May?
Yes. Inauguration is supposed to take place May 29th.
Okay. So when is the Supreme Court going to make its decision?
And that's a good question because people are saying there is a chance they wouldn't have come up with their decision even after May 29th. So it's possible the case will keep on dragging post May 29th. But also, there are rumors of, I don't know, the APC is accusing Labour Party. You know, there's a lot of propaganda going on right now. So much propaganda just to divide people, to turn people into enemies, you know, so they can be easily controlled. Um, they're talking about there will be an interim government and it's being planned by Labour Party, but that doesn't make sense. There is no way an opposition party would have that much power to introduce and force, you know, an interim government. But, you know, those types of propaganda are currently ongoing. And I don't know if you heard about the clash between the Yorubas and the Igbos in Lagos.
I've heard some things that basically during this election, Tinubu and the APC was able to get enough Yorubas on their side because Tinubu is Yoruba that they were able to. They had already been intimidating Yorubas. I mean, not Yorubas, but Igbos last year about voting for Tinubu.
Hmm.
But now, I think because a lot of the Igbos, and especially in the southeast where they're from, was boycotting the election anyway. So, so you had that issue, and then you also had, like you say, some clashes. People like this is our guy. Like I was telling you, this is our guy. He's Yoruba. It's our time. We're not gonna get caught up in what Igbos grievances. So I've heard little bits and pieces, but
Hmm.
did you do something, a new video recently?
No, I did not. No, I got overwhelmed with the Nigerian news and the, you know, excuse me, the elections wahala. It was just too much. So I took a break from the Nigerian, you know, news. I was honestly focusing more on Uganda. I was also trying to follow up on what was going on with South Africa and the shut down the nation protest that they're planning. I don't know if they did that already. Julius Malema, I seen him, um, you know, publicly b- inviting Vladimir Putin, telling the West that if Putin comes to South Africa, we are going to protect him. Nobody has the right. ICC doesn't have the right to. So yeah, that was what I was mostly focusing on.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the video you did. One Nigeria was created by Evo reaction to Mr. Zeke. You know what was that about?
Oh yeah. So what that video was about was, you know, currently part of the propaganda that is ongoing in Nigeria especially within Yoruba communities. And just so you know, I'm Yoruba, so obviously I wouldn't have any negative feelings towards my people, but I see a lot of messages being spread in many WhatsApp groups. Even family members trying to divide themselves based on ethnicity, telling people that, oh, we need to teach you some history lessons on our relations with the Igbo people. The Igbo people are bad. The Igbo people are this. Just trying to paint the Igbo people in a negative way. And then that video that I reacted to was made by an Igbo guy, where he was basically saying that the one Nigeria, you know that term, one Nigeria?
Okay.
Yeah, one Nigeria was created by the Igbos. So he went into a quick historical lesson explaining what happened between 1959 and about after the Civil War. Talking about how it was Nnamdi Azikiwe was opposing a regional system of government just before independence in 1959. And then after the first coup in 1966, Agunyi Ironsi, the military head of state of Nigeria, that took over power after that coup happened, the guy implemented a unitary system of government. And it was from that point in 1966 that Nigeria has basically deviated into what it is now. Right now, there are 36 states that have been created from that first entity. But the difference is the 36 states, which are part of a so called federal government of Nigeria, that's not how it works. It's the states are absolutely beneath the federal in every aspect. So the federal government basically has so much power. The president of Nigeria is so powerful, it's unbelievable. The president of Nigeria, the presidency, has power over every region of Nigeria. And that's where the problem is. In a country as diverse as Nigeria, people, there would always be disagreements. And that's why we are where we are.
Okay. Let me just kind of bring it back home. Okay, so we talked about so we talked about you know the aftermath of the election. We talked about the aftermath of the election. We talked about the protesting and the people challenging the results of the election. That Tinubu was not elected properly. They stole the election. And my opinion is that if everybody's cheating, then it's even. Just like we had baseball scandal, everybody was using steroids, then it's okay. Nobody had a necessary advantage, a great advantage.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that right now he's the president-elect, Tinubu, Bola Tinubu. What is his first name? I've heard them call him something else.
So let me tell you, this is so bad. This guy's name right now is Bola Ahmed Tinubu,
Yeah.
but that's not even his real name, and that's part of the petition that Obi has against him and INEC. That why? How come INEC allowed someone whose real name cannot even be verified to run for presidency? Nobody knows his real name. Nobody knows his real age. This guy claimed he went to universities in Illinois, Chicago. It turns out to be a lie. It turns out that there was someone else registered in that with that name, but that was a female in around the same time in the 60s or in the 70s. So this is ridiculous, And this same person had the drug situation, the drug case. He had to you know, forfeit tons of money to the U.S. government, and that's why they let him go. And so Obi didn't even did not plan to go that dirty. He would have just petitioned INEC with regards to the process itself, the elections process. Maybe talking about, oh, you guys didn't use beavers, even though you claimed that you're using beavers. So I'm taking you to court to have these elections maybe overturned, or whatever. But this guy went deep. He brought out about 6 points. One of the points was the beavers situation. Another point was the real name, the real information of Tinubu, his real name, his real age, his educational qualifications, that it's already unconstitutional to have that kind of person contesting for presidency. Plus, the guy now has a legal drug case pending. What are you guys talking?
A drug
Oh
case
my
where in the
God.
United States.
Yeah, in the United States, yeah.
I mean, that's been 20. I mean, that's been 30 years. So
Yeah, but why is he trying to be the president of a country, a
okay,
dead country too? And we all saw the process of him saying stuff like "Emilokon." Let me say something to you, bro. You know that "Emilokon" is a Yoruba phrase for "it is my turn." That's the literal translation.
say that again. What was the term?
"Emilokon."
A Maloko. Is that what they say before his name? A
No,
Maloko? No.
no. What they say before his name is Asiwaju.
What does that mean? I see you. I see you. Why you? I see you.
Asiwaju means Asiwaju is someone that opens doors. You
Okay.
know,
Oh, it's a title. It's not his
someone that
name.
breaks, that creates a path. That's what that means.
So, repeat it again.
Asiwaju.
I see why you. The path maker.
Yeah,
King
the
maker.
path creator. Yeah.
The path creator. So he and as Elomelo said, he was the last man standing. Now,
Who?
Elomelo,
Okay. Yeah.
the business tycoon.
Yes.
Anyway, so we got Bola Ahmed Adekunle Adelanke Tinubu. That's supposed to be his name. And you say his title is Asiwaju, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, what will life in Nigeria be like, in your estimation, if this man takes office?
It's not, it's not far-fetched. It's not difficult to be a prophet in Nigeria, to be honest. And you see, that's why a lot of these guys just become pastors, because these things are predictable. You can already tell what's going to happen. So they claim that they are seeing miracles and wonders, and then they make a lot of money from the gullible people that believe them. But I'll tell you what, it's predictable what would happen if Tinubu becomes the president. First and foremost, right now, he has been missing for the past few weeks. Um, Before he went missing, there were allegations that he was very, very sick and he had to be rushed to the hospital and then flown to Paris, France. And then from France, he went to go rest in London. I mean, it's normal, and this is what I expect to happen after he becomes the president. The only good thing is he would have the Nigerian resources to take care of himself. He would have the Nigerian Air Force One, a big jet to easily jump on and go to a hospital in London whenever he has a headache or whatever. After all, his immediate predecessor, Buhari, did the exact same thing and nothing happened. As a matter of fact, people right now are already referring to Buhari as their elder statesman. And that's just the way Nigeria is. People easily forget about the people that traumatized them for long, the criminals that have impoverished them, used their resources to in manners that cannot be accounted for, in criminal ways. It's unacceptable, but it is what it is. That's what Tinubu would provide to Nigerians. It would always be in London hospitals.
Okay. So, I remember they're saying he celebrated his 71st birthday. I think he's actually 10 years older than that. Just looking at him and seeing how feeble he is, and he's lost some of his faculties. I think he went to the restroom on himself one time. He wet his pants one time during a meeting or something. Is that right?
There was a photograph coming out, going around, of Tinubu celebrating 59, 59th birthday in 1998. Tinubu's birthday in 1998. This is ridiculous. These guys, they turn all of us into scientists, into researchers. See, find Nigerians conducting all types of research, just trying to find out this guy's information because nobody knows what he is. Look, in 1992, 1952. Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't find it. I'm looking for a photograph from 1998 where Tinubu is celebrating his birthday and he was 69. I think this might be it. No. Anyways, it's ridiculous. From that calculation from 1998 and now, this guy appears to be 81 or 80.
He looks like he's in his 80s to me. But because I mean, Atiku was 76, and he doesn't look as as old and frail as Tinubu. But let's go on. So let's talk about the issues that affect Nigeria. We talked about security,
Yeah.
the terrorism. What will happen to Boko Haram and the other terrorist groups and the Fulani herdsmen if will this continue to go on? Will Nigerians continue to get killed and displaced and kidnapped, or will Tinubu do anything about it?
No, obviously Tinubu will do absolutely nothing. In fact, you know what's going to happen? All these terrorist groups are mostly sponsored by politicians in the first place, right? And the clearest evidence to know that politicians are mostly responsible for terrorism is during the elections that was just concluded. Terrorism generally reduced. You hardly heard about Boko Haram or ISWAP or Fulani herdsmen attacking anybody. But guess what? A couple days after the gubernatorial elections, they resumed. We had we had two attacks in Ondo, which is deep south, southwest Nigeria. Two attacks in Ondo. We had multiple attacks in Borno. We had another case where over 50 people were killed in I think that was Katsina just last week. So these things have begun already. Nobody even talks about it anymore. They've turned us into we've adjusted into that situation. But I'll tell you what, as far as security is concerned in Nigeria, if Tinubu gets sworn in, you see this individual standing beside him is Vice.
That's his vice president. Right?
Yeah, that's the vice presidential candidate. His name is Shetima. Okay, now me personally, I see Shetima as a Boko Haram member. He's a member of Boko Haram. Okay, Nigerians, if they want to be hypocrites, they'll tell you stuff like, "Oh, show us the evidence. Show us the evidence that he is a Boko Haram." I don't need to show you the evidence because your judiciary system can't even send him to jail. This guy once had a Boko Haram member lodging in one of his properties in Abuja. That guy's name was Kabiru Sokoto. Kabiru Sokoto was responsible for Christmas bombing in Madala in Abuja in 2009, I think, or 10, either 9 or 10. 2009, 2010. I can't remember how many people lost their lives. I'll check that situation. Madala bombing. Madala bombing. I was living here. I was literally living in the same city when this happened too. What's it called? The main guy behind Madala bombing, whose name is Kabiru Sokoto, he was sheltered in Shetima's lodge in Abuja. That's where he was found at some point. And this guy never ended up in prison or any major sentence. He wasn't sentenced. Like we just heard, oh, there was one guy and he was found in the governor's house because then Shetima was a governor in Borno State. Yeah. So this guy, Kabiru Sokoto, see, this news is from 2013. So it was Christmas 2012 that this happened. And this individual, Kabiru Sokoto, was eventually found chilling in the about to be sworn in vice president's house. Yes, that happened. And this guy, one of the scariest videos that I've ever seen of Shetima, which I'm going to share with you right now. It's a video where Shetima basically told all the other groups in Nigeria. If you ever heard about restructuring, so restructuring is the process of returning Nigeria to what it is just after independence. Not a unitary system, but a federal system, a true federation, where different regions would have lots of autonomous powers. Over the decades, they've created a lot. They've modified the structure of Nigeria. Right now, we have 36 states, and it's all a mess. Okay? It's all an absolute mess. In my opinion, if they want Nigeria to survive, they would have to break it down not into 36 states, or maybe into 5 regions or 6 regions, in my opinion. And each region should be treated like a federating unit, like a province. But listen to what this is Shetima on the screen. Listen to what he had to say about people asking for restructuring.
Elon Musk is talking about constricting the journey from London to New York to 31 minutes. But unfortunately, the topical issue in Nigeria is restructuring. Restructuring my foot. To hell with restructuring. Let's improve on the quality of governance. Let's work for the people. Let's invest in education. Let's create jobs. All this madness will evaporate. I raise my case.
So I don't know if you heard what he said.
I did.
Yeah, you did. That's a threat. That's a straight threat to anybody asking for the country to be restructured. And some people genuinely believe that that's the only way to stand a chance um, of moving forward as a country. That's the only way. In my opinion, I think right now we've even gone beyond that. In my opinion, right now.
Okay, well, you talked about the country breaking up in several different territories, Igbo land or Yoruba land, the Oduduwa Republic, and some of these other places, right?
Yeah.
But that's not politically feasible. No one wants to go through take the risk and go through the headache of doing it. So we're stuck with this Nigeria. And so no one knows outside of Nigeria the way it actually is. People just think the majority of Nigerian people see it from the South, so they assume that all Nigerians are that way. Either Yoruba or Hausa or some variation of that. I mean, not Hausa, but Yoruba and Igbo, or some other southern group, like the Benin or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think they're Yoruba too, but they're kind of separate. But anyway, people don't know, so y'all need to tell y'all story so people will know what's going on. Number one.
Yeah.
And then also not stuff all that scamming and stuff. That's people associated with Nigerians with. But then this is the other thing. You had poverty. You had the most intense poverty of any country where you surpass India and that. The number percentage of the population, the number of people live on less than $1 a day. 87 million people. So what will Tinubu do about that? Yeah, he's worth $4.5 billion according to the BBC. So what do you think? He's going to have the economics, and Shatima will probably run the country, because he's younger. What will happen with the economy?
So normally the president is usually in control of security, and the vice is in control of economy. In Buhari and Osinbajo's tenure, it wasn't Osinbajo couldn't do nothing. He was not in control of nothing. Buhari was in control of security and economy, and he ruined both. So this time around, they're saying it'll be the other way. That Tinubu would be in control of the economy, and Shetima will be in control of the security. So people like me are like, oh, that's perfect, because right now they're just going to give the security of Nigeria to Boko Haram. Okay. And for me, I'm not surprised. Okay. And we've seen that happen in the Middle East, where the security of the country is controlled by the Taliban in Afghanistan. So if Boko Haram is in control of the security of Nigeria, it will be sad, extremely sad, and that's part of the reasons why people are fighting tooth and nail to make sure Tinubu doesn't get there.
So, if Boko Haram is just an appendage of politicians and not a separate, opposing group, they're just functionaries of these different politicians, then why don't people go after the politicians?
I wouldn't call them 100% appendages of the politicians. They are also separate entities on their own, and they get fed and sponsored by the politicians. But over time, they've metamorphosized into, their own uniqueness, and it's hard for the politicians to control them. Now they are independent, so they have to negotiate with the politicians many times to do business together.
Okay. Now, what about the CIA? You think the CIA and MI6 are involved in training these guys?
Yes, those guys definitely have their hands. Brother, this is how I see it. These things have happened so many times, time after time after time. I remember I was watching a general, and the guy is a Black American. This general was stationed. He was responsible for some battalions in West Africa, Mali, and they had trained thousands of local guys. And some of those local guys, one of them was Mamadi Doumbouya. Mamadi Doumbouya was the leader of the coup that happened in Guinea recently, like 2 years ago. So they were probing that Black American general and their activities in the West African region. And they said, we trained, this guy said 5,000. So you can imagine how many people they've trained over the years. I remember as at 10 years ago, American filmmakers were in Borno making documentaries about Boko Haram, showing American soldiers training Nigerian indigenous soldiers and some security guys on how to fight against Boko Haram. I'm talking about 10, 15 years ago. So definitely, America is on the ground and has an influence in the situation from both sides, not just from the defense side.
So he's not going to do anything for defense. It's going to be status quo on the economy. Everything's going to be the status quo. It's going to continue to descend.
It's going to be the absolute same. The absolute same. Ain't nothing changing. It's actually going to get worse. But I think the only silver lining for me is that more people will pass the breaking point, because this last elections we still had, the obedience, for example. The obedience hadn't passed the breaking point yet. They still believed that they could save, anything left of Nigeria. And they came together, they used their political will, and they were robbed. So after these elections, after everything has come to pass, if Tinubu is sworn in, these obedience, many of them will also cross that point of no return. And they are going to be on the side of, let's figure out a way to break up this country. Otherwise, we are wasting our time. We are going round and round and round in circles. The same thing, it's predictable. Everything that happened in 2023 elections was easily predictable. For someone like me, I made tons of videos. If you check the videos that I made that I put on the platform, I was saying this is what's going to happen. And I was a little bit surprised that the obedience had so much enthusiasm, and I was almost changing my mind at some point, because for me, I'm extremely pessimistic about the situation. I know it's not through votes that we're going to change Nigeria. I know that, because we are dealing with hardened, absolute criminals that perpetrate crime with impunity, and they've been doing it for so long. They are used to it. They know nothing is going to happen. So it's difficult to use a legal process like voting to get rid of those people. We have to find another way. That's my opinion.
Who would have been worse, Tinubu or Atiku?
Honestly, they're both the same, but I think Atiku will probably be better than Tinubu. I think. Because Tinubu is those people that love people that worship them. People that have their ego is so big. Well, until recently, Tinubu's ego has been really, really bashed. Since social media, this social media really affects these guys, because Nigerians are constantly bashing them on social media and they feel powerless. Normally if someone calls them names, oh, he's an idiot, he's a foolish politician, they can use soldiers to go arrest you and they will torture you. They do that all the time. It's normal. That's how they do. But in social media, if you have like 1,000 people doing that to you at the same time, then you don't really have the power to torture so many people. You don't have the resources, But Tinubu has more of that arrogant attitude. He would never listen to nobody. Tinubu is so hard-headed. He wouldn't listen to nothing. So Tinubu would enslave the people worse than Atiku would. In my opinion, that's how I see both guys. But they are both evil.
I think Atiku is more crooked, still more. But he just had that track record. Now, but Tinubu was a big thief too, and crook, and he does have ties to organized crime here in the States.
Yeah.
But or allegedly, he's never convicted. But so what would Nigeria? Let's say Obi prevails in court and becomes the president. What would Nigeria be like under him?
If Obi prevails in court, there would be a ramping up in terrorism for sure. Now, how he deals with that will determine if anything can move forward in his administration. First and foremost, if Obi get into Aso Villa, it's going to take a miracle. Chances are extremely slim right now. But if it does, Nigeria better be expecting a ramp up in terrorism activities. 100%. That's what's going to happen. Because he has so many people that hate him, and there is a religious undertone. It's not even undertone anymore. Now it's mainstream. They would accuse him of wanting to negate Islam in Nigeria. They would use religious divide and conquer and turn all the Muslims in the north, the uneducated, ignorant ones, against him immediately. And the guy would have so much problems to deal with. Now, if he's miraculously able to overcome all that problem and still persevere, there would still be corruption. I think a guy like Obi would be a tiny step in the right direction simply because that shows that Nigeria still exists. If the people can't put their votes together and select someone, then the country doesn't really exist. It's just a system for certain people, the people that select the candidates, not the general public that elects the candidate. So yeah, if Obi gets there, the good thing about it is it shows that there is still a tiny hope, but there will be a lot of problems with terrorism.
Okay. It's so sad, man, because it's so much potential. You see the genius of the Nigerian people. Like I told you, the majority of the new black doctors in the United States,
Yeah.
Nigerian, Nigerian ancestry. I think there was just a story. I don't know. They were saying there were more Nigerian doctors
Doctors.
than in Lagos.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
You know, it's just getting to the point they're down to thousands of doctors in a country of 200 million people, and so it's just um, it's sad, man. It's just as you say, it's the African trouble, the African Wahala. We can't,
That's the African Wahala.
you know,
Then I need you just look at this, for example. Just look at this. This is from 16th of March. UK licenses 162 doctors in 42 days. You know, this is after having thousands of Nigerian doctors in the UK practicing. You know, with 200 million people, and you only have about 30 something thousand doctors, that's a huge problem. I, brother, if you check the website of the state of Texas, I bet you Texas has way more than the total number of doctors in Nigeria right now. Just Texas. And Nigeria has 200 million people. Let me tell you how bad it is, bro. In the entire Nigeria, we have about 20 something urologists. So if someone has any issues with his urinary canal, a lot of people have prostate cancer and stuff like that. There are only 21 urologists for 200 million people. If you're talking about other specialists in many medical fields, very few numbers. If you check out the state of Texas, I bet you there'll be maybe 200 urologists. This is how horrible Nigeria has turned into a harvesting ground. They destroy the country from inside, and the few potentials and talents that should be helping the country, they are either trying to escape because the country is absolutely unfavorable for them, or they have to join in the people that punish the rest of the country. You either beat them or join them. That's the Nigerian story.
okay. Well, I think we've basically caught up. Do we have anybody wants to in the chat? Anybody want to talk or anything? Or we want to close it out?
Yeah, I'll put the link in the comment section for like 5 minutes, and then we can close it out after if nobody joins.
So I don't know, man. What do they call it? It's a Yoruba word. If people run away. What's it called?
Gakpa.
Repa.
Yeah, it's sad, man. It's so painful. It wasn't this bad until about 10 years ago, but it's always been consistently bad. Like it has been on a regressive level consistently. But in the last like 10 years, 7 to 10 years, it became so bad again. Right now Nigeria is basically at its lowest. Countries like Ghana, the things that they enjoy in Ghana these days are things that we used to enjoy in the 90s. For example, in the 90s, me, my dad, my mom, me and my brother, we would do road trips from Abuja to Lagos every Christmas. We'll drive from Abuja to Lagos. It would take us about 8 hours. I'm talking about the early 90s, like 92, 93. And we did it at least twice a year. Just an 8-hour drive, 750 kilometers. Right now, that same route from Abuja to Lagos in 2023, the people still drive it, obviously, but it's 10 times more dangerous because number one, zero emergency medical services, and there are tons of potholes. So you could be driving, you're doing 50 kilometers an hour, you run into a deep pothole, your car rolls over, there is no emergency medical service for you. The closest decent hospital is like 300 kilometers away. And to get there, you have to go on bad roads. Now, apart from that situation, there are tons of kidnappers in the bushes that come out of the bushes and kidnap tons of people. It's been that bad for so long. So these days, the family trips that we used to enjoy in the 90s, families don't enjoy that any longer. Driving from Abuja to Lagos. If there were none of these obstacles that I just mentioned, just based on how bad the roads are, it's now a 12-hour drive. It used to be 8 hours in the 90s. Now it's 12 hours. And that's how things in general have deteriorated.
Okay.
So it's sad. I mean, it's very, very sad. It's not an African thing, it's a Nigerian thing because there are many African countries definitely making progress. For example, Kenya. Kenya too had a horrible, horrible country. But right now you can see they are slowly making some strides, in different aspects of the country. It's a country that attracts people that foreigners want to go to. One of the first indices to recognize how good a country is the amount of negative news you hear about the country. There is no perfect country in the world, none. Even the worst countries of the world, Afghanistan, Syria, people still go there to visit, you know. But we can't deny that some countries are horrible. We just can't deny it. You know, at least we have Ghana over there. Nobody comes to Nigeria. People don't feel safe to just travel from Europe, from America, from Asia to come visit Nigeria and lodge by themselves in a hotel. Very few people take those chances, but more people are willing to go to Ghana because they feel safer there. You can get out of Kumasi and drive to Accra at 2 o'clock in the morning, no problem. You dare not try that in Nigeria. 2 o'clock in the morning, you just want to, your chances of arriving at your destination is slim. So yeah, that's the Nigerian Wahala, my brother. Thank you so much for this, for letting me rant to you.
You know, yeah, I appreciate it, man. As always, um, I enjoy being on your platform and sharing. I learn a lot. It's good to be. It's good to be been off for about a month, maybe 6 weeks.
Yeah,
Let's did a simulcast together. So looking forward to the next one. I want to thank everybody that's watching. Please like and subscribe to this channel.
yes,
Okay, this channel, bro, this is a great channel. It's one of the best resources out there about Nigeria today and yesterday, and perhaps into the future. So you can support uh, Brother Ade channel. What he's doing
yes,
God's
sir.
work. Let people informed about what's going on in Africa and Nigeria in particular, but Africa in general, and uniting the whole African or Black world together.
Yes.
The United States, Canada, Latin America, UK, and on the continent. And with that, I want to close and thank you, brother, and have a good evening.
And you too, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Bye.